I panic sold my Bitcoin at the worst possible moment. Then I watched it recover 180% without me. And the worst part? I thought I was being smart when I did it. I'm Sats. This is the most expensive mistake I ever made. And if you're new to Bitcoin, there's a good chance you'll face the exact same moment. Here's what it actually cost me. It started the way it starts for a lot of people. Bitcoin was in the news, everyone was talking about it. A mate at work hadn't stopped going on about it for months. So I did what most people do. I bought some, not a huge amount, enough to feel like I was part of it. For a few weeks, it felt great. The price went up. I checked it every morning. I told myself I'd made a smart decision. Then it started dropping. At first, I told myself it was fine, just a correction. Normal volatility. I'd read enough to know Bitcoin was volatile. I could handle it, except I couldn't. It dropped 15%, then 25%. Then I woke up one morning and I was down 40% on what I'd put in. This is the moment most people think they're still in control. They're not. Because fear has already taken over, they just haven't noticed yet. And somewhere in my head, a voice started saying the same thing it says to every new investor who hasn't been through this before. What if it doesn't come back? This is where most people make the first mistake. And I made it. I sold. Not at the bottom, actually. A little above it. I sold, took the loss, and told myself I'd cut my losses before things got worse. I remember the feeling of relief when the transaction went through. Like I'd made a responsible decision. Like I was in control again. 2 weeks later, the price started recovering. I told myself it was a dead cat bounce. A temporary blip before the real crash came. I stayed out. I watched from the sidelines as it crept back up. I convinced myself I'd re-enter at the right moment. Lower than where I'd sold and make it all back. And this is the part that actually cost me the most. It never came back down to where I was waiting. It just kept going up. Slowly at first, then faster. 3 months after I sold, Bitcoin was back above my original buy price. 6 months after I sold, it was 80% above it. 12 months after I sold, it was up over 180% from the point I'd been so relieved to exit. I hadn't just lost money on the sale, I'd lost all of the recovery on top of it. And the cruelest part? I'd been telling people to buy Bitcoin. I believed in it enough to put my own money in, but the moment it got uncomfortable, I didn't act like someone who believed in it. I acted like someone who was scared. And fear is a terrible investment strategy. So what actually went wrong? Because it wasn't the price dropping. Price drops are normal. Bitcoin has dropped more than 50% multiple times in its history and recovered every single time. The drop wasn't the problem. The problem was that I didn't have a framework. I had no answer to the question, what do I do when this falls? So when it fell, I improvised. And improvising when you're scared leads to exactly one outcome. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Bitcoin is not a short-term trade. It never has been. If you're checking the price every day, you are playing the wrong game. The people who have made money from Bitcoin consistently are not the ones who timed the market perfectly. They're the ones who bought an amount they could afford to leave alone, stopped checking daily, and gave it time. The rule is simple. Only put in what you could genuinely afford to lose completely without it affecting your life. Not money you need for rent, not money for emergencies, money you can set aside for at least 4 years and not touch. Why 4 years? Because in Bitcoin's entire history, there has never been a 4-year period where the price at the end was lower than at the start. Not one. That's not a guarantee, but it tells you something real about the time frame that actually matters. If I had known that, I would have bought an amount I was comfortable holding through a 40% drop without panic. And when the drop came, I would have had an answer ready. The answer is, this is normal. The time frame is years, not weeks. Do nothing. Instead, I had no answer, so fear gave me one. And fear's answer cost me everything I would have gained. The hardest part wasn't losing money, it was knowing I didn't need to. Alright, let's bring it together. I bought Bitcoin during the hype, watched it drop 40%, panic sold near the bottom, then watched it recover 180% without me. The mistake wasn't buying, it wasn't even the drop. It was not having a framework for what to do when things got uncomfortable. The fix is simple. Only invest what you can genuinely leave alone for at least 4 years. Decide before you buy how you'll behave when it drops. Because it will drop, and when it does, the only question is whether you've got an answer ready or whether you're going to improvise. Improvising when you're scared is how you turn a temporary loss into a permanent one. If you don't want to make this mistake yourself, the next video to watch is the one on why Bitcoin has value. It gives you the framework that stops fear from making your decisions for you. Stack smart, stay curious. See you in the next stack.